Welcome back to the On Adventure podcast. I'm Josh Self, and I'll be your host today. My guest today is Scott Hanson. Scott comes highly regarded from several of his colleagues that had introduced me to him over the past several months. So this was a conversation I was definitely looking forward to see where it went. Scott has been involved in all kinds of different endurance feats over the last couple of decades. And it was interesting to hear how he got into that and the progression that he took as he extended further and further into endurance. Scott goes into quite a bit of detail with us on his adventure through the Western States 100 and what he learned through the almost 24 straight hours of suffering through 100 miles and about 19,000 feet of elevation gain. But he also talks about a particularly interesting trip to Mount Fuji in Japan to experience climbing what is a very sacred mountain for most people in that culture. He has a lot of stories in between, but I loved how he combined what he learned in the endurance feats with what has pushed him and helped him achieve different things throughout his both professional and personal life. Without further ado, enjoy my conversation with Scott Hanson. All right, well, Scott Hanson, welcome to the On Adventure podcast. And you are a bit of a legend coming into this from guys that have talked about you to me. And so you've got, this high bar to live up to.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
Yeah. But I am curious and very interested to dive into some of the things that you've done, partly because my interests overlap with these activities as well. So first of all, thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule. And I know I'm keeping you from a very nice location that I'm fond of as well. So I appreciate it.
Yeah. I'm glad to be here, Josh. My pleasure.
All right.
I'm passionate about these sort of things. So I'm looking forward to our discussion together.
Well, so tell me just out of the gate, where did that start? Have you always been somebody that drove for kind of long distance endurance things or really hard challenges?
No, it's funny. When I was in high school, my dad was a big runner. I think he had a year he averaged running 80 miles a week. That was his average for the year. Yeah.
That's a big load.
Yeah. And so he was really into it. And I think maybe just because of my age and if he was into it, then I didn't want to be into it. But it was in college when I just started. Actually, I started gaining a couple pounds. I started to run just to get in shape. And then I became, I guess, kind of addicted. And I ran for a number of years. And I started cycling and then mountain biking. And now I find I just feel better when I move. So every day I like to do something. As a matter of fact, I was looking at my stats last month. I think I had 48 hours of moving time last month. So that was a good month for me.
Yeah.
But I love it.
Do you keep really meticulous notes on that, or do you just have an app that does it?
I use Strava. I use my Garmin watch and Strava, and I keep threatening to throw away my watch and delete my app, but I don't.
Yeah. Just for the sake of
as I'm getting older, I look at my previous times. I'm like, dang.
Yeah. What Garmin watch do you use?
It's a 5-year-old one, Phoenix 5, I think it is, something like that.
I think I have the exact same one.
Yeah.
Yep. Bought it was on sale because it was one of the older models, and it works great.
Yeah, that's what I did. And I was a late adopter. I had friends using Strava and stuff for a long time, and I didn't want to keep track of things because then every workout would become too important, and that's exactly what's happened. And there are times I actually think about I should probably just get rid of it because now it's like there's always a record. I know I'm going to look at it. Yeah. And we all have good days and bad days when we're out doing stuff. And some days I feel alive and I can charge forever, and other days I'm struggling, and I should allow myself to struggle a bit.
Yeah.
Although I do have those days, I'll put on my running shoes. I get down to the end of the street and I'm like, I'm not into it today, and I walk home.
Yeah. Yep. I get that too.
I give myself permission for that.
Yeah. Now, you said you do a lot of trail running. Do you have trails right close by your house?
Yeah, we live in the foothills of the Sierras outside of Sacramento. So I've got a trail within less than a quarter mile, 1/10 of a mile probably. And I'm on trail.
And that kind of gets you a lot of different places.
Oh yeah, I can be on single track to Lake Folsom, and there's miles and miles of trails. It's all a little hilly, not too steep, but a lot of stuff. And if I want steep stuff, I don't have to go very far. There's phenomenal trails out here.
Yeah. When you've got a pretty demanding professional life from what I understand. Where do you fit this kind of stuff in? Are you a morning guy, lunchtime? When do you fit it?
I'm definitely a morning guy, and I have headlamps for for running.
Yeah.
There was a few years I did a lot of night mountain biking, like early morning 5 a.m. mountain biking. I don't know. I kind of grew out of that again.
That seems a little intense.
It was. It was when I was in my 40s, the early 40s, and we were all about the same age. I think we were trying to defy the clock, and
Yeah.
it was fun though. We did several years of 5 a.m. out and pretty serious single track.
Yeah.
No steep stuff, but
Well,
yeah, I love the
and doing
mornings.
that 5 a.m. headlamp running through the woods, that I love doing that. It hurts to get up that early sometimes, but getting out and being in the dark, quiet woods and nothing but the beam coming off your head, that's pretty fun.
Yeah, I'm always a little worried about a mountain lion or a bear or something, but
Yeah. Yeah, you got that a little bit more to worry about than where I'm at. Do you tend to run by yourself or do you go in a group?
I'm about half and half. So I've got a number of friends, and I've got a buddy that has a running coaching business that's got a 70 or 80 runners. So I'll run with that group sometimes. And
Okay, that's cool.
yeah, most of my riding I do with others. I tend to enjoy riding with others.
Gotcha. So it sometime around college years, you got into exercising for different reasons, but when did it kind of take it up to another level to do something really hard and really long, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, I started out just running, and then I started cycling a bit and found I really enjoyed that as well. And then I started mountain biking and found I really enjoyed that as well. I enjoy hiking as well. Like, it was hard.
Hard to
So part
pick.
of it is just trying to balance it all. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I could tell if I was being a little over the top because my wife would get grumpy with me. I remember one day I was talking about something about my workouts, and she says, "Hey, it's not like you're an Olympian." And I thought, hey, you have a pretty good point.
Yeah.
Maybe I shouldn't take this too seriously.
Yeah, yeah.
As I
Well,
told my
but
business,
that
I've had a long-time business partner, Pat McLean. We've been working together for 3 decades. And I joked with him one day. I said, "You'd be a very wealthy man if I worked as hard at work as I did working out."
well, I was actually about to make that connection where there's probably something in that singular focus of exercise that I mean, you joke about it, but I'm sure you brought that intensity to your work life as well, and probably has been part of
Yeah,
what's made you
I think that's
successful.
what I enjoy about endurance sports. You tend to go through it's almost like a miniature life, like particularly if you look like a marathon or whatnot. You go through these periods of euphoria, you feel this great, and like just like
Yeah.
nothing can stop you. And
Mm.
then you have other periods of despair, and you want to quit, and that's kind of how life is, right? And obviously, I mean, when you're self-inflicted pain is a little different than when there's real pain that happens in the
Yeah.
world. But I clearly that tenacity I take with me to the office. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I think I don't know if I've learned tenacity at work through my endurance sports or vice versa. But
Yeah.
regardless, there's something about, and then when you're in a kind of in the pain cave,
Hmm.
it never lasts too long. It's always temporary, and you'll pop out of it. And it's enabled me to, like, all right, I only have 2 more hours of this. I can do anything for 2 hours. And then
Yeah.
I only have 10 more minutes. I can do anything for 10 minutes. And like at the office, I only have whatever it is. Like,
Yeah.
I could suck it up and do it.
So, I mean, I know some of that is learned. It's kind of the idea of expanding your comfort zone. The more you expand it, the more things are just normal and comfortable, and what used to be hard is no longer hard. But I have to guess, and you tell me if I'm off here, that you probably had something there in your DNA and in your character that goes back even further into your grown up years. That was the building blocks to that. Is that a fair
I guess.
assessment?
I don't know. It's really interesting. I sometimes ask myself, I had most of us didn't have idyllic childhood, and my parents divorced and kind of bounced back and forth. I'm 5'6". I'm relatively tall now compared to how short I was growing up. I was always like the smallest kid in class, kind of the runt, and I was terrible at anything with a ball. And so,
Oh,
yeah, like when it was
yeah.
time to pick sports, I wasn't the last. The fat kid was picked last. I was second to last. So we don't want Scott. You take Scott. I don't want Scott. And so I think some of those. It's always funny how life goes. I look back now and I look at some of these seasons as kind of a gift because it just taught me to push forward. And in spite of my challenges or weaknesses, learned how to move forward and figure out what my strengths are. And I think there's actually part of me now that I don't know if it's, part of me is like, I don't know if it's kind of revenge. Like I'm
Yes.
50, I'm turning 58 and I'm in phenomenal shape. And most of my friends, the kid who didn't want me on his football team looks like hell.
Yeah. Diabetic, overweight.
Yeah. Knee blown out. Yeah.
Knees blown out. Yeah. That's interesting. So, maybe a little subconscious revenge drive there, but were you did you do sports as a teenager or anything organized like that?
No, ran cross country my freshman year in high school. I was terrible, hated it. And I wrestled 1 year when I was a sophomore and didn't really like that. So, and then I didn't do anything. It's funny. I remember my dad telling me, because I always worked, he said, I'll pay you to do a sport. And I just didn't want to do it. So
What kind of jobs did you have?
I had a paper route in middle school. And then I did tree trimming. And then I actually had a tree trimming business I ran for a couple of years in college. Yeah.
Get way up in the trees and
yeah, I was trained how to climb. And so then when I had my business, I was a climber and climb with a chainsaw.
Wow.
I look back now, it was like crazy.
Yeah, we have a client that has been in that business for a long time, and that is for sure not for the faint of heart, especially if you're getting way up into the trees.
Oh yeah, yeah. I guess it was fun. I mean, parts of it was fun. I mean, it was a great workout up in those trees, climbing and swinging around. And
how long did you do that?
About 5 years.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. I learned a ton. It's funny because I had bad grades in high school, so I didn't have a lot of college options. I went to junior college and ran my tree trimming business for a few years. And I learned more from the tree trimming business than I did in my college years.
I believe that. Yeah.
Yeah. I learned a lot.
So when did you get into the financial world from the tree business? That's kind of a big jump.
I ended up, I knew it was like either get serious about and build the tree business up. I had 2 employees, but it was like, I need to really get serious about it or do something different. So I'm just going to finish school and do something different. And so I sold the business and went to Chico State, finished school there, and then trying to figure out what I wanted to do. Like I studied finance. I enjoy people, and I was introduced to the financial planning profession. I just thought this thing's perfect for me. And I remember at the time, this is 1990. I interviewed. It was essentially the wirehouses.
Yep.
Or insurance companies.
Insurance company, yeah.
And but IDS, which is Ameriprise today, I remember I liked them. I interviewed with them, but they didn't want to hire me, so I didn't get a job from them. And partly because I had no natural market. I was in Northern California. I was planning on staying there, and so I went to work for Lincoln National Life Insurance Company. I was there for about 3 years. They had a big financial planning focus, a number of CFPs even back then.
Oh, okay.
And so I was there for about 3 years, and it was a fine place to start. I didn't like the structure of I didn't think insurance was always the answer for everything.
Right.
Most insurance companies, that's what they lead with. It's like, whatever the financial problem is, and life insurance is the answer.
Yeah. So only so long that you can stay around. And I think I lasted in that world a few years longer than you did, but eventually came to the same realization that, like square peg, round hole, that you need to go find a different sandbox to play in.
Yeah, exactly right.
So what did you do after that?
I started what was then called Hanson McLean. Now it's called Allworth with my longtime business partner, Pat McLean.
Started with 0 clients?
We had a handful of clients and about 10 million under management that we had got from rollovers from the phone company employees that we did seminars to.
Gotcha. That's a pretty good start. What year was that? Is that still in the 90s?
Yeah, that was in 93. It was a good start because we had stumbled across Pacific Bell that was doing some early downsizing and really nice pension enhancements and pension lump sums. And so we said, let's understand this marketplace really well, and let's take an education approach to it. And that's really what launched us. Gotcha. We still have a lot of those clients today.
Is that right? That's impressive.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I know the company's become a much bigger deal than just 10 million under management at this point. I don't want to get back to the adventure side, but has the ride of growing a business from 10 million in assets under management to how many billion do you guys manage now?
23 or 24 billion, somewhere in there.
That is an exponential growth rate. what has that ride been like from?
It's funny people say that, and I think, well, Jeff Bezos started his business after I started mine, so we barely moved.
Yeah, I guess it's always what are you comparing
Correct.
against?
That's
Yeah.
not well. That tells you a little about my personality. It's not always a healthy thing. I tend to look above as opposed to looking at below
You
and
and
what
me
I've
both.
accomplished. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a double-edged sword, right? I think a lot of driven people, it's kind of there, but it's been a lot of fun for the most part. It's the size we're at today. The challenges are different. I stepped aside as the CEO last fall, so that's been an interesting experience for me.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Used to be involved in every decision. Now I hear about things after the fact, pretty much. It was
Is
clearly
that
the right
hard?
thing for the organization. Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
been it's the right thing for the company. The company's doing great. Everyone's employees are doing great. Our clients are doing great. It's clearly the right move. Maybe I should have made the move a year or two prior, frankly. But it's just been a strange adjustment for me personally. Yeah.
Has it given you more time out of the office?
Oh yeah, but maybe too much time.
I see. And now we're back to Strava and focusing on
Yeah, but
king of the mountain.
I can only do so much of that stuff too. So I don't know. We'll see what I'm 58. I've got probably 20 good years still in me.
Yeah. Yeah. This will be released on audio, so no one will be able to see the pictures here, but you don't look 58. You definitely have
56?
turned it around to your, your high school people that didn't pick you on the team.
I don't have any hair, but
that's all right. I mean, some 30-year-olds don't have any hair. So, but let's talk a little bit about some of the races that you've done. And
yeah,
I'd like to start with Western States because these ultra marathons grabbed my attention many years ago. I've never done anything over 30 miles yet, but that idea of going in the same direction for 100 miles or more. There's another race I saw just started in the Italian Alps yesterday. That's a 250-mile, 450-kilometer race on unmanaged trails through the ridge lines of the Italian Alps. And,
I can only imagine how technical it is and the amount of elevation.
Yeah,
European ultras are tougher than U.S. ultras for the most part.
Well, so I know Western States is kind of in your backyard, but at what point did you say, okay, this is something I want to do? And did it, what was the training like, I guess?
Yeah, I had some friends that I always thought it was crazy. Like I couldn't understand
really
someone doing how do you run 100 miles? And I hear about in the canyons and stuff. Didn't really quite know what that was. And then I don't know. I guess it started intriguing me. I'd done an Ironman, and I was kind of thinking like, what's the next what would be an interesting challenge?
Mm-hmm.
And so I talked to some people who had ran Western States, and I thought that might be pretty cool to do. And so Western States, for those of you that aren't familiar, it starts in the Sierras, the base of Squaw Valley. Now they call it Palisades. So you basically start at the base of a ski resort. You climb up over the mountain, and then it's 100 miles on single track through the woods till you get to a town called Auburn in the foothills.
Auburn, California. Yeah.
And yeah, I think there's almost 19,000 feet. No, there's 19,000 feet of elevation gain. So it's not just running. There's times when I could think of sometimes you would be like hiking for an hour to climb to only go a couple miles, but that's how steep it was. So
yeah,
you pretty much hike the uphills and you run the flats and the downhills.
Yeah. Elevation wise, were you trained by your house? Is that close-ish to the elevation up in?
No, I live at 1,000 feet below sea level. It starts at 6,200 where the race is, but altitude doesn't seem to bother me much.
Okay.
You just breathe a little harder.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, I've discovered if you can kind of just ignore that, because I don't think to my experience anyway, like I was in Telluride a few weeks ago up at 13,000 feet, and I just noticed that I just breathed a lot harder, and maybe it was a little slower, but I didn't feel like my body was working any harder than it was at other periods of time. Maybe if I hadn't slowed down a bit, it would be.
That's interesting.
So I guess it slows you a bit. But.
Yeah, Skip was telling me about Skip Schweiss, who his conversation I'll release probably in about a week and a half, but he was telling me about that trip because he had just gotten back when I talked to him a few weeks ago. But that seemed pretty had its parts where it got pretty steep for you guys.
Yeah, it was awesome. Really enjoyed it. No, it was a great. It was one of my favorite. It was one of my favorite days of the year. I did it with my oldest daughter. Was with me, and I was hiking with Chip Rome, another gentleman in the industry, and it was a cool experience. Great day.
How did that compare challenge wise to some of the other things? Like you guys done the 4 pass loop and the coastline in Kauai, and how did the Telluride compare to some?
It was up there. It was nothing like Western States 100. I mean,
Okay.
I never went through any real dark spots. Hiking, I tend not to go through the dark moments like you can on an ultra race.
All right. So back to Western States, when you got into that, so talk me through kind of the stages of that race for you. So when did it get really hard? When did you have, did you have any out of body experiences? Did it get really scary at different points?
And I'll back up a bit. So I had just gotten into ultras. I had done a couple 50Ks, and then I did a 50 miler, and it went better than I was expecting. I had a very good experience there and finished super strong. And I had a friend of mine said, like, you had to go out for Western States. And because I was able to qualify after the 50 miler. Some rules have changed since that time. And so I got into Western States, and it was only just a few months later that after my 50 miler, that I ran the Western States 100, and had a friend of mine that he has a running coaching business now, but at the time he just had a passion for helping other people run. And so we'd on Fridays go out with Tom and this other gal who was training, and we would run essentially all day on Fridays up in the canyons, in the Sierra foothills, or when the snow started melting, we'd get up a little higher elevation and run 30 miles or whatever if it's a training run. Yeah. And I don't think I didn't run anything further than a 50 miler before the 100-mile endurance run, though.
Is it drastically different going 100 versus 50? Or,
yes.
I mean, okay.
For me, it was. I mean, everyone's different. It's funny because when I finished, I've kind of collapsed, and I ended up kind of in the med tent for an hour or two. And I was actually had a client of mine come to the finish to watch me come in, and he said about half the people looked like I did, like almost dead. And the other half, he said one guy did like a somersault, a cartwheel or a back handspring, some sort of, right at the finish line, laughing. He said half the people looked like they hadn't even ran. I was clearly the one that was felt like I was going to die, and my legs were traumatized. And for the next week, it looked like I'd been in a car accident or something. I had so much swelling.
Oh my gosh. So was it nutrition? What kind of pushed you to that limit?
Well, it was an interesting. I've learned how to eat, and for those that aren't familiar with endurance sports, you eat. You have to eat. If you don't eat, you're not going to finish.
You will die.
So managing your nutrition and your fluids are really important.
Yeah.
And essentially, there's an aid station about every hour. And so you run to the aid station, you get in, someone helps fill your little backpack. You grab some food, eat the food while you're walking, and then as soon as you finish eating, you start running again. That's kind of what the program is. And so I remember it was like mile 15. It was a cold day for whatever reason. The day I ran, it was in the 30s and kind of a little bit of drizzle. We're up in the mountains, and I just hit this point at mile 15. I'm thinking, what am I thinking? There's no way I can't. Oh, wow. I can't do this. Like,
that's early.
Why to even sign up for this? Yeah. And I thinking I'm going to have to, I'll drop. I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to drop. Then I started thinking about all the people who were watching me, my family, and I had this client who really encouraged me to do it. Who was going to be at the finish line. I started thinking of all the people that would ask me why I quit. So
that's enough.
But you go through these highs and lows. So that was a real low I hit. And then at the first major aid station where you could have visitors was, I think it was mile 29, somewhere in there. And my dad was there, my son was there. And it was just such an encouragement seeing them. And I remember leaving the aid stations about a mile later, and I had like tears of joy. I never felt so alive. It was a beautiful spot looking over the mountains and the valley below. And I just thought, oh my gosh, like I am alive. I can't believe this. I was euphoric.
What mile was that?
About mile 30.
Okay.
And then I felt on top of the world, and I felt pretty good from mile 30 to mile 62 or so, and there's a town called Forest Hill. That's kind of a major aid station. And at that point, you can get some pacers, people, a runner to come run alongside with you. And with Western States, there's a 30-hour cutoff. So if you don't finish in 30 hours, you do not finish, even if you complete it. So 30 hours is the cutoff. But if you can do 24 hours, you get this belt buckle.
Yeah, the belt buckle.
So yeah, the buckle. And so that's kind of what the goal is. That was clearly my goal. I wanted to be 24 hours. And so every aid station, there'd be a little chart that would say, here's where you need to be, ballpark, if you're going to do 24 hours, and here's where you need to be for 30 hours, just based on what other runners have done historically. So I get to the aid station, and when I left the aid station at Forest Hill at mile 62, I was right on the money, right at the cutoff for 24 hours.
Okay.
But about that point, it felt like the wheels fell off, and I had a lot of pain in my legs. I was walking some of the flats, and I remember I get to the next aid station, and now I'm 2 minutes behind where I need to be, and then the next one I'm 3 minutes behind where I need to be, and finally this is at like mile 91 or 92, and I'm at the aid station. I'm like 4 minutes behind where I need to be, and my pain was so bad, and all my bands were on fire. I was like walking down the hill and stuff. My legs were killing me.
What was it? Just kind of the beating of the mountains, or what was the pain from?
I guess.
Yeah,
my body tell me to stop.
Yeah,
and I came in kind of minimally trained, which I think went to my benefit, because a lot of people get injured before the start of the race. Yeah. There's so much training that they get injured, and they can't. And I didn't want that to happen to me. And I knew I could just suck it up for a while. But it was at this point, I remember thinking, it's now or never. I got to make this thing happen. And so from that point to the next aid station, like all the pain was gone. I'm flying down the hills. I'm passing people. I get to the next aid station. I made up all that 4 or 5 minutes, and now I've got 10 minutes in the bank. So I gained like 15 minutes. Yeah, and all the pain was gone. It was like my body had completely shut off the pain. My mind just compartmentalized it, turned it off. I didn't feel any of it. I was just focused on that goal. And then when I knew that I had plenty of time for the last few miles, all the pain was back. I suffered into the end, and I finished the race in like 23 hours and 54 minutes, something like that.
Oh,
so yeah, just under the wire. And what's so interesting, Josh, looking back, like I asked myself, why did I want that? Why did I want it that badly? Like, for whatever reason, I had this goal, and my mind wanted it so bad, I was able to shut off all this pain and completely ignore it and move forward. And then I thought to myself, how can I apply that to areas of life that really matter? Like being a good husband and being a good father and being a good friend, right? Like things that are truly valuable in life, not just some stupid run. Yeah. And I don't know if I have the answer to that, but it clearly showed me that my mind can be pretty dang strong. And if I really focus on the right things, I could probably do much more than I think I can.
That's the goal. I mean, that is really what I love getting out of these conversations, is finding out when someone figures that out and how they do that. And that's really where my question goes for you, is when you were in the middle of answering that question of why am I doing this? What was the answer?
I guess I just wanted it. Well, I mean, part of it was, look, I believed I was capable of it. I'd done the training. I had a good friend of mine who's running coach. He believed in me. I had a pacer at the end this guy's the strongest athlete I've ever known. He ran the last 18 miles with me. He believes in me. So I knew it was physically possible. I knew it was possible. And so then I knew at that point it was just a mental game. And they talk about that a lot in endurance. It's mental. Yeah. And it's mental because your body's telling you one thing, stop.
Yeah.
And you need to figure out a way to let that pain either feed you or ignore it. And I think I've actually gotten to the point where a lot of times I can almost let it feed me. Like I feel it's a strange kind of pain you're in when you're in these endurance stuff. But if instead of you hearing it as a signal from your body to stop doing something, which is probably what you should be doing.
Well, I think that what I have discovered from talking to a bunch of different people doing these things is there is an element where if you push it too far, you're dead, right? I mean, your
Yeah,
body's
I wasn't
telling you
close to
so.
that. Yeah, I
Yeah, your
wasn't that close
body
to that.
is sending signals that are self-protective to try to stop the pain and get you to slow down. But there's a point where you can take that too far. But it is fascinating to me that the body can be in the self-protective mode, and the brain can go, nope, we're going to keep going. Nope, we're okay. And you've called it the pain cave. You've even talked about kind of some of the things that you say to yourself when you get into those dark moments. But I think that's really the thing that's so fascinating to me, is that you have control over
Yep.
whether you stop or not.
Well, so I paced this gal, and I paced a number of runners over the years and guided some blind runners and stuff in marathons. And I paced this gal a few years ago. She wanted to qualify for Boston. She needed, I think, a 3:30 to qualify for Boston. And I ran with her the entire race. And she was still a relatively newer runner at the time. And I think we're like mile 23 or 4. She's like, Scott, I got to stop. I can't. I'm done. I can't go anymore. I got to stop.
Mm.
And I looked at her and I said, wait a minute. I said, you gave birth to a child. Like, that's
Yeah.
got to be much worse than
Yes.
this.
Oh my gosh.
You've gone through divorce. That's got to be much worse than this. I said, we got 20 minutes. Suck it up. You can do anything for 20 minutes. And, and she told me later that how encouraging that was to her, because she's thought about the true pain of life. And she
Yes.
reflected on
Yeah.
some real pain. And it's like, this is nothing really. It's just
Yeah.
putting your mind to it.
So, okay, let's flip that around then. Those are the things that adventuring has taught you. Where do you see that awareness kind of implementing in your real life, and not just business, but in as you pointed out earlier, the things that really matter, the people you care about and the relationships with them. Do you
Well, I
see
think
that
part of it
leaking
is,
over?
yeah, I mean, I think part of it is anything good in life takes work. Like if I want a good marriage, I'm going to have to work on it. My wife and I are both going to have to work on it. And we do. It's like, it's a priority to us to have a good marriage. So we spend a lot of time working on our marriage. And that means sometimes going to counseling and reading books and going to conferences and having honest conversations and putting in the work. Same thing with being a parent, or same thing with marketplace too. It's like, if I want to be great at something, I got to put in the work. And I know that if I put in the work, it's going to deliver results later. That's just, except for golfing for me, that never seemed to work.
That
Like,
hasn't worked.
I haven't golfed in 25 years. Like, I could not get any better at that game. So I quit.
All right. Well, I mean, that's interesting. You have to put in the work to be able to push through the hard times and get to the other side.
And any pain's temporary.
Mm.
Right? We know that. I mean, we know that in life. I don't care. It's funny. I've got 2 teenage daughters at home still, and like teenagers, everything's so immediate in front of them. Like when something goes wrong, their whole world's shattered, right? Like they can't even see like any future anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I think part of it is you get older, you've had these different experiences, but you realize that whatever you're going through is just temporary. And sometimes the worst things that happen to you are actually some of the best things that happen
Turn
to
out to
you.
be the best. Yeah.
It's where you have the most amount of growth and some of those things. So
Yeah.
I think that's why I said these endurance sports are like a kind of mini life.
So, and the analogy I threw out, I think before we were recording though, is when you get back the next time and your skis are over that double black diamond edge, and you got to make the decision: are you dropping in and going to send it, or you're going to back up and take the lift down, or some other route? Does it kind of build on itself for you? Has it built on the confidence built on itself as you've done more
Yeah,
and
but
more
I
of these
think
things?
I'm a big steer as well. I think it's sports specific though, because there's some shoots that I passed on that I just know that
Yeah.
there's a good chance I'm not going to be able to land that 20-foot drop. Like I just know myself. Like it's going to be a yard sale. I actually had a pretty good tumble a year and a half ago skiing. It was inbounds, and I was mocking. There's a sign at Squaw. They had some new signs they put up, Palisade they call them, and it was at Skull and Crossbones, expert only, double black diamond. And I'm with my buddy, and I mocked the sign because it was a newer sign. Like how silly this is, because a lot of very open terrain at Squaw. And I dropped in, and there was an exposed rock that I didn't see, and I slid, and one of my skis popped off, and I started tumbling head over heels, like
Oh
And
my gosh.
I kept tumbling and tumbling and tumbling. And I remember thinking, I need to self-arrest. And I'm taking my poles and trying to jam them in the snow, and eventually both poles went flying. And then I'm trying to kick my feet in. I'm thinking,
Yeah.
I got to stop, because I knew the chute was getting more narrow, and there was a big rock on one side, and then trees on the other. And I thought, if I don't self-arrest, I could, slam into one of these. And fortunately, I eventually stopped, and it was amazing how high my heart rate was. Like, my adrenaline was just through the roof, and my whole vest, my whole jacket was just packed with snow. And fortunately, I was fine. But it gave me another respect. So endurance sports, if you're out running on a trail, it's a little different, just pushing through and you're not feeling good, as opposed to maybe having the proper respect for a cliff that's in front of you.
Yeah, the ancient saying of pride comes before the fall, literally.
Yeah. And I've done I typically do 1 or 2 heli ski trips a winter. And I was in Alaska a number of years ago, and I came home early. I skied one day, I came home early. Well, one guy died the day I got there.
Oh my gosh.
Little mama pop. Yeah. And so you're trying to ski, realizing that some guy just died the day before. And I felt like I was in a Warren Miller film. I'm a good skier, but I'm not like not that good of a skier. And I remember I got done with the day, and I woke up in the middle of the night. I'm like, I'm getting the hell out of here.
Yeah.
It was just, and my buddy stayed, and it was like, I don't know if I'm being a total wuss by going home, or if I'm proud of myself for knowing where the limit is for me. But
yeah, I mean, so the moment you knew that was the right thing to do, and you pulled the chute, even regardless of what the social ramifications were.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah.
But they all respected it. They didn't, then they probably wouldn't be the kind of people I'd hang out with. Like,
well, yeah.
These are guys who love me. They were good friends of mine. So,
yeah. Well, so you finished Western States. You had, I mean, that emotional roller coaster you described as, I mean, that's fairly significant.
And physically, it was pretty tough on me. Some people have an easier time. For me, it was like I had been in a car accident. I bought a trash can at Target and would fill it with ice so I can step into it and to get the swelling to go down. And then I have a hip that doesn't really like that either. So my doctor told me, she said, this was 12 years ago. She says, either you cut back your mileage, or you're going to have a hip replacement in 10 years. And I thought, well, I don't want that. So I kind of quit doing the ultra stuff.
Gotcha. Yeah, I had the conversation I just released this past week was with a guy that had done a bunch of ultras, a lot of long distance stuff. And it wasn't 10 years down the road. His knee actually gave out, and the doctor said, you've got to stop. And he kept going, trying to prove his doctor wrong, and until he couldn't. So the thing he switched to was he was planning this across the country trip, and he, instead of doing it on his feet, he did it on an elliptigo. I don't know if you've ever seen.
Oh yeah.
Yes. He rode an elliptigo from California to North Carolina.
Oh my gosh. How long did it take him?
I forget how many months. His wife was pulling my
camper. Wife would kill me. No, yeah, my wife would.
Yeah.
Pulling a camper. There's no way my wife would be pulling a camper as I'm doing that.
The cool thing about his story was he wasn't just I'm sure you've got some of these, because you even mentioned guiding blind runners, but when you add a purpose to an adventure, it takes on a whole nother level. And this guy Clay had recently lost a son to addiction. And the whole purpose of this was to raise awareness and raise money. So everywhere he stopped, he was talking about it.
Yeah.
And even still, he will tell you it was crazy. And the way he found out about an elliptigo, he saw somebody riding one down the street in Colorado one day. And he's like, oh, I'll do that across the country. I mean, it's just for the
other listeners that don't know what you're talking, it's like the elliptical machine.
It is,
but on a bike, right? It's like,
right.
So it's got wheels, but it's elliptical. Yeah. It's the exact same motions you could do on.
So it doesn't pound your knees and your hips like running does, but it's still.
I've never understood the benefit, because I enjoy cycling. So when I see guys on those things, I'm like, you get out of your mind.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's transition to your Mount Fuji. And we can, I don't, is there any connection or any thread that connects Western States to that trip to Mount Fuji, or was that something totally separate later on?
Totally separate. Mount Fuji, so I think it was about 5, 6 years ago, did Mount Fuji with Chip Rome, who leads Tiburon Strategic Advisors, and Skip Schweiss executive in financial services, has been for years. Myself and my daughter, my oldest daughter, was 22, I guess, at the time. And the cool thing about Mount Fuji, it's 12,000 feet. And we started at the base, which is maybe 1,000 feet. It was 2,000. I think we did 10,000 feet that day of elevation.
Oh, you do it in one day?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
So we started at like, I don't know, 2 a.m. or something, 2 or 3 a.m. with headlamps, which is half the fun in the middle.
Yes.
We started some temple of some sort, pitch dark. But Mount Fuji, it's this cultural experience for a lot of Japanese, almost like a spiritual journey for them. And so for us, we're just hiking some mountain, but for these people, it's like this culmination
like pilgrimage.
of yes. And so it's just, that was half the fun and half the fascination of doing it. And we had been told that as you get, there's these age, about halfway up, as you'll start seeing some places to buy food and water, like little huts or whatever that station up there. And about every 1,000 feet, there'd be some huts selling stuff. But as the higher we got, the more expensive things got. So, I guess the capitalistic, right? Yeah, exactly. And it's further; they have to haul that stuff up too. But one of the funny things is, here's 3 successful financial guys, and none of us had much currency with us, yen. We just figured someone would take credit. Well, no one takes any credit card up there. We thought Japanese, they take credit cards everywhere. Yeah. So we're literally, as we're getting near the top, we're like, how much cash do you have? How much water can we afford? It was pretty funny, but it was just a cool experience doing with some friends and doing with my daughter. And it was one of those things I'd highly recommend Mount Fuji. And it's not technical. It's just one foot in front of the other hiking. It's parts of it actually a little bit can be almost boring as far as the hike goes, but just the people that are there, and they start selling oxygen canisters at like 8,000 feet elevation, and you see people sucking down oxygen. We're not Mount Everest, right? Yeah. 8,000 feet. And I remember seeing this young man throwing up from altitude sickness, and I'm thinking that's got to be psychosomatic, because we're not even that high, like at 9,000 or 10,000 feet. I know some people have pretty significant altitude issues, but it wasn't that. Well, it really wasn't that steep or that high. It was just a cool experience, really cool experience.
So did you get to talk to the Japanese on the trail while you were doing it? Was there any
we talked to some. Well, Skip liked to tell people, it was either Skip or Chip, that my daughter was an American movie star. She's cute and had this little, the father thinks too little of clothing on. So I always think no matter how much clothing she had on, probably, but these cute little dolphin shorts, and she's in great shape, and
you look like a movie star.
Yeah, I guess maybe I don't know. You look different than most of the other. It's funny, the Japanese, most of them had a lot of these clothing on. They're all prepared for the mountain. Someone looked like they were on the top of Everest with the amount of gear they had on, wearing shorts.
That's funny. So you've mentioned your daughter a couple times. Does she do quite a few of these adventures with you?
Yeah, and it's funny. We ran a 50K together. I hadn't ran a 50K in several years, and a couple months ago, it was like maybe 4 months ago, she says, "Hey, you want to do this 50K with me?" I'm sure. Anytime my daughter wants to do something with me, she's 28 now, and so we did a 50K outside of Reno in the Sierra foothills there. Actually, at the top of the mountain from there, but it was a great experience. And she's still kind of newer on the endurance stuff, so some of the middle miles she was struggling a bit, and walking areas that I'm kind of I'm walking with her and trying to encourage her, but when her dad tries to encourage her, it's pissed her off, I think, because her dad. So it wasn't all that fun the whole thing. But anyway, we get down to the end, and kind of the shoot to the finish, and she takes off into a sprint. She played lacrosse in college, so she can be really quick when she wants to be. And she takes off. I'm thinking, oh no, you don't.
You took off after her?
Yeah. No way did I catch her. And there's some photos. This professional photographer took some pictures. She's laughing, cracking up laughing. And I've got this grimace. I'm working as hard as I can, and I still didn't catch her. But she's got 100K that she's doing in another month or so. She's hoping to qualify for Western States. And in just 2 weeks, we're doing the Grand Canyon rim to rim to rim together.
She's going to do that with you?
Yeah, it was her idea. It'll be on my birthday, and it was her idea. Dad, what do you say for your birthday? We go do rim to rim to rim.
Oh my gosh.
So it's 48 miles. You start at the South Rim, drop down. I did it about 5 years ago with some buddies. great experience. You climb up the other side, turn around, go back. And I've got a couple other buddies going this time as well. So there'll be 5 or 6 of us doing it.
So when you think about some of these things that you've done over your lifetime, some I'm imagining you've done on your own, and others you've done, in packs or in groups. How do those compare? Do you enjoy one versus the other?
Yeah, I enjoy being with people. I'm very much an extrovert. I'd rather be around others. I feel better about myself when I'm around others, just how I'm wired. And I love doing adventurous things with people. We've got a place in Tahoe, and there's some like phenomenal mountain biking and trail running there. And I've hosted this summer, I don't know, a handful of times, people up for mountain biking or trail running, or we did a gravel race on gravel bikes one day. And I love doing that stuff. And I love helping facilitate those kind of adventures with people.
Yeah, I interviewed actually a mountain climbing guide named Matt Walker. He lives out in Washington State, but he's also a trained psychologist. And so the interesting overlap between psychology and adventurous pursuits was really fascinating. But he has, I think it was 5 or 7 elements of adventure. But one of the key parts is having that, whether it's companionship or human connection, that amplifies the entire experience versus if you do it solo.
Yeah,
it sounds like you've had. Yeah, I think it's interesting.
And when, like last time I did rim to rim to rim, I did it with 2 good friends of mine, and like you go through dark times at different times. So
at different times.
My buddy Chris he was bonking for a while, and I had to kind of slow up, and then he popped back out of it, and I had a rough patch for a while. It's kind of helpful when you got people with you.
Yeah. And I guess, again,
I'm not much of a mountaineer, though. Like I have respect for true mountaineering. I did do the Grand Teton a couple times.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah, which is great. I'd highly recommend that to people too. It's as long as you know how to do some basic climbing, which I don't really know how to do, but you can go take a 1 or 2 day course and you learn how to do the ropes and how to listen to commands. And so I did it one time with my father and my son, and then years later I did it with my daughter, who's now my oldest daughter. She was 24 or something at the time. But the first time I went up, speaking of kind of adventures, as we're hiking up, it's basically you'd hike up to about 12,000 feet, the little saddle there. You stay the night there. You get up at 3 a.m. and that's when you start heading out to the summit. And the top 2,000 feet, it's 14,000 feet roughly. The top 2,000 feet is quite technical, so it's roped climbing and that sort of thing. And so you've got a guide, and you just listen to the guide. But the first time we did it, we were hiking up, and thunderstorms came in early, and it was raining pretty significantly. And our guide says, "Hey, we're getting some reports. It sounds like there might be some people that have been struck by lightning." So we get up to the saddle, and they kicked us out of our hut because the rangers were using the hut for search and rescuing. And there were, I think, 18 people that were up in the top of the mountain when the lightning storm came in. There were 2 deaths that day.
Oh my God.
And they rescued like 18 people. So I'm there in the saddle watching them fly these people in, hanging from a rope, bringing them in, and they're all shell shocked because what they've just experienced, all had weird burns on them and stuff. So we're witnessing all that stuff happen. It was just, I must say, it was absolutely awesome watching the Rangers in full mode, like
just do their deal.
They trained their whole life. They had this super light helicopter that could go at altitude, and these Rangers, it was just like they trained their whole life for days like this, and they did such a phenomenal job rescuing everybody. And so we got up the next day, and we still went up and summited. And coming down, I was about 6 miles from the trailhead. All the danger was behind me. The day before was dangerous, and I slipped on a rock and pinched my foot. You know where this is going?
Yeah.
And broke my ankle and my leg. And so there I am on the side of the trail there, and my son was 13 or so at the time. I'm not much of a swearer, but the first word out of my mouth, F-bomb, non-stop. He's looking at me like, my dad always told me to save those swear words for when you really need it. I guess I needed it that day.
You needed it that
but
day.
I was with a guide, and they called a ranger of sorts, and they said, well, normally we'd send a horse to come get you, but we had the helicopter here this morning for body retrieval, so we're just going to use the helicopter to fly you out of here. So they put a vest of sorts on me, the screamer suit they called it, and plucked me off on a rope on the helicopter and flew me off the mountain that way
Oh my
to
gosh.
the hospital. So yeah, it was. And I
Would
had 3
your
months, had
Go ahead.
surgery and 3 months of no. It was just right after I did Ironman too, and I remember thinking, I'm best shape of my life, and now I can't move. But my ankles came back pretty good. I did have stem cell therapy on that, stem cell on my hip.
Gotcha.
I think my hip issues were as a result of the break, but I haven't let it slow me down.
That's good. Now, your son is 13 years old. Did that slow him down or scare him from getting back up on a mountain?
No, when he was in college, he led backpacking trips in Switzerland. That was his job. And then
Oh
2
my
years
gosh.
ago, he rode his bike across the United States with a bunch of high school kids with a company called Overland. That was his summer job. Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
yeah. And he's a pilot now, so he's a commercial pilot.
Who's he fly for?
He's a flight instructor now. He just finished the school program. He just needs to get enough hours to get
Gotcha.
hired by one of the majors. He's guaranteed a job with United as long as he doesn't do anything stupid.
Well, it takes a lot of hours. My brother's been flying commercial for many years, and those guys put in a lot of work in
It's
the same
hard.
direction.
I think
Yeah.
the unions make it really difficult.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah.
Because it's once you've got some seniority, it's a pretty good gig.
Yep.
Yeah,
It just takes a while to get to that point.
Yeah, I think he was talking to a pilot who flies for NetJets, and the guy works 12 days a month. He's basically works a week and he's off a week, works a week and he's off a week. So when he takes a week vacation, he's got 3 weeks off, and he makes about 300 grand a year, and he can live anywhere he wants. I'm like, that sounds like a pretty good gig.
That's a pretty good job.
Yeah, that's what I think. Go fly all over the place and all these cool
my
jets
gosh.
you're gonna fly. Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. And I think, in my own experience, certainly not being, I've backpacked with my son, and he was, I think, probably 9 or 10 the first time we went out. And I've told people in different episodes that the first night we went out, it was dark and windy and scary. We were in the middle of nowhere, and he woke up crying in the middle of the night, and I want to go home. Like, the only way home is that way. Right.
No, yeah.
And I thought, he's either ruined, he'll never want to do this again, or this might light a fire in him. And now he's 20 years old, and he considers himself a backpacker, and he goes, hiking the Appalachian Trail with his buddies and spending spring break doing that. And so there's those moments where it's just like, holy crap, did I just ruin this for him? And yeah, I don't know if that went through your mind or not, but if you're on the saddle of a mountain looking up and knowing that they're pulling bodies off, and you go up to that same spot the next day with your 13-year-old, that's pretty tenuous.
Well, he didn't summit. He and my father they chose not to go up the top. I went up the top anyway.
I see.
So I met him further down the hill.
So you went up, came down, and then all of you went down just for you to break your leg right next to him.
That's right. That's exactly what it was. Yes.
That's pretty awesome. Well, Scott, I appreciate you doing this, and really you've kind of highlighted in very clear and terms that I always hope to get to in these conversations, of not just about what you did, but what drove you to do it. And what have you learned? And I love that you've been able to talk about how that your ability to suffer and experience pain has expanded as you've done these different things, and then the way that has overlapped into your real life, right, outside of the adventures. And that's something that I don't hear a lot of people spending too much time talking about. It's more about
life
adventure.
Life is such an adventure anyway. You never know you make all these plans, and you never know what's really going to happen. And I just find that this is just another extension, and it's a miniature life. I don't know.
I think that's cool. So, to wrap it up, you said, how old are you? You're 57?
58 in 2 weeks. So
58 in 2 weeks. So in the next 10, 15, 20 years, what do you see looking the same, or maybe doing things different?
Yeah, I'm pretty realistic. When you look at the stats, and I haven't had much I haven't dropped off much in the last 10 years, but I have a little, and I can notice it when I look at my Strava. I was just last night joking with a friend of mine, one of my buddies I run with, and it just for the last 5 years, the same loop. It's this gradual decline. So I'm getting a little slower. But I've got a really good buddy of mine. He's 71, and I've been cycling with him for years. He was always the strongest cyclist in our group, and like the last 4 years, it's really changed. And he went to the Mayo Clinic to find out what was going on with him, and he came back. I said, Terry, what did they tell you? He says, well, it's terrible. I said, what is it? He says, I'm in perfect health. I'm just getting old. He was hoping they were going to tell him something was wrong with him, and it's like, no, I'm just getting old. And so I look, I'm realistic about that. I think part of me is like, I want to make sure I get all these things in while I can. But then there's also part of me like, I don't know how hard I really want to pursue. I mean, there's other things important in life, and I don't want to put something important in life on the back burner to do some. Yeah. Like I want to heli-ski in South America. I heard you can stay there's one operation you can stay in a W hotel in Santiago, and a helicopter will literally pick you up off the roof of the hotel and take you skiing. I'm like, how fun does that seem? Like, what a phenomenal experience that would be. It seems a little over the top, but experience. But I think it just sounds great in summertime here and go down to South America and go heli-skiing. And I was talking about doing the Matterhorn, climbing the Matterhorn with my daughter, but she did some more research and she doesn't like heights. She's like, I'm not doing that. So I don't know. I don't have anything too crazy on my calendar, and we'll see.
But it sounds like the experiences are maybe have gotten to be as important to you as just the thing itself. You know, whether it's doing something with your daughter or friends, or is that true? Do you think that's going to be?
Yeah, for sure. Look, I mean, if my life were over today, I think I've lived a very full life. I feel so blessed and so fortunate in so many ways. So I feel like this is all just kind of bonus. I really do. And yeah, I'm realistic. Like something could happen to me health-wise and take me out. I mean, I feel better when I move, and there's something about the endorphins and stuff you get from endurance. So I would really hate to have to give that up. And I'd probably start swimming again or something if I had a leg issue. I would. I just have to
as much as you dislike it.
Yeah, but I have to get my heart rate up. I feel better when that happens.
Yeah. Swimming's great for that kind of stuff.
I guess. I don't know. I swam when I had 3 months of I talked to the doctor to give me a removable cast so I could swim. But I had 3 months. My foot didn't touch the ground. But I'd go into the gym. I did some weight training too, just to stay in shape. And I'd sit on the bench and, hey, can you give me the 30-pound dumbbells? Can you give me? So between that and swimming in the pool with a little buoy between my legs, it was a lifesaver. But I don't know what I'd do if I got jacked up bad enough where I couldn't move my upper body and my lower body at the same time. That'd be hard.
Yeah. Well, I think it's been fun for me to talk to you. I appreciate you taking the time to do it. And, that the thing that every conversation I have, I'm like, man, these people are all cut from the same cloth. As like you and I've never met before today. Our paths had no reason to cross before this, but I feel like, at any point I could sit down with you and we could just pick right up and talk about all the stuff that we have in common. So I think that's pretty cool about this whole podcast medium.
Yeah. Well, and when you're into these kind of adventure sports or whatever, I think it's a relatively small club, but we're all kind of
similar. Yeah.
Same dysfunction going on in their brains.
Very good. All right,
yeah,
Scott.
It's great to meet you, Josh.
Very much appreciate it.
All right. I appreciate the time being on the podcast.
All right. Thanks. Talk to you soon. Okay. Man, I really enjoyed that. I hope you did as well. The next one will be coming at you in a couple weeks, so stay tuned. Until then, I hope you have your own great adventure.